Yes. First of all, get into the equipment. Okay, now hold on. Now
Listen,
you pulled up.
I did a little upgrade on the pod for my
Oh no,
listeners
that's
because
right.
they deserve the best always. You
Okay, how
know?
long you been doing this?
This podcast I've been doing it for since the pandemic, so 5 years now.
Oh my
But my
gosh,
brand, the Reality Rundown, I've been doing it for 8 years.
are you serious?
Mm-hmm.
While simultaneously like working and everything
Wow,
too.
yeah, I started the Reality Rundown because I also used to work in news. And
Oh,
you know, when you are in like one of the big threes, like having any hobbies or any personality is not really a
yep.
thing. So I kind of started the reality rundown as like a way of having a hobby to still be able to talk about, you know, reality TV and the things I enjoyed, and because I used to work in hard news. So,
Wow.
and then I ended up at Bravo. I don't even know how, honestly. It's the world is crazy, but yeah, that's kind of how I got myself into this. And
That's
then
so cool. Oh my gosh.
a hobby became a business. You know how sometimes things work out.
Listen,
You
get
know,
that coin. Listen, bills be due. I tell
seriously.
people all the time, bills be due, so I get it.
Listen, and one stream is not enough.
No, it
Like
actually isn't. You're so right.
it really isn't. So you got to figure it out. Listen, child. Friendships were tested, the secrets were spilled, and Drew's man is still trying to snatch her name like it's a Birkin on sale, honey. This week on The Real Housewives of Atlanta, Shamea finally told Porsha how she really feels.
Hmm.
Angela's whole family wants out, and maybe including Charles, no shade. And Drew, she's crying, lawyering up, and locked out the house. And I couldn't break it all down without a real journalist in the mix. Joining me is People Magazine's very own Nate Vinson. Get comfortable because the shade came in cream this episode, and we got a lot to unpack. Like I said, joining me today is a journalist whose pen is mightier than Kenya Moore's shade. If you've seen his byline at People Magazine, but the tweet stayed cutting it on the TL, always the viral, the sensational. Give it up for the one and only, the great is Nate. Hi, Nate.
Hello there. No, you ate that intro. You ate that. Yes, you definitely produced her through and through because you ate that script.
How are you? Thank you for coming on reality right after.
I'm feeling so good. Happy to be with you today. And let's get into some Atlanta things because
L-
it's a lot going on.
It's a lot going on, and I am so happy to have you. First things first, before we get into this episode, how are you liking the new season of The Real Housewives of Atlanta? We kind of having like this is the revamp era. This is it's
Mhm.
giving us very much Miami revamp. Three new girls, three old girls. Like it's how are you liking this new area, the Sweet 16 of Roa?
I have to say that I came into this new era or this season with a clean slate. I felt like
Mm,
it was going to
good.
be nearly impossible to digest whatever new direction they were going in without
Right.
really trying to give everyone a clean slate, including Phaedra. And I say that through clenched teeth, okay? I'm saying it through clenched teeth, but I'm going to give her a clean slate so we go see what she presents us. And so, yeah, I'm definitely feeling good about the new season. We are definitely building some blocks that can be built upon going into next season and seasons thereafter. So I feel good
I
about it.
agree. I agree. I think this is a great start. I don't think
Mm-hmm.
we're there, but I think this is a great start for the girls. Also because I'm sorry to put you on the spot, but I am asking all of my guests
Okay.
that I have on the podcast post Kenya Moore debacle to give me their
Yes.
opinion on Kenya Moore, the situation, her exiting the show.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts?
To like sum it up quickly, I have been a Kenya Moore fan pretty much since day one. I just find her very striking, of course,
Mm-hmm.
physically, but she's just like a one of one kind of
One
personality.
of one.
She's an agitator, but now she's an agitator when you look back, like in hindsight, in like a classic way.
Yeah.
Like when you think about agitators, now she is a blueprint. And
Mm-hmm.
so I felt like what unfolded was very unfortunate, but I was just talking to a friend about how Britt Edie was literally just like a representation of whatever beef she had with production. That is how I've digested it. Whatever
Mm.
tug and pull she was feeling behind the scenes, like sometimes when you can't really get at the actual thing you want to get at, and then something else kind of comes up in front of you, you
Yeah,
kind of unleash everything on that person.
right.
That's how I digested it as a viewer who was watched Kenya closely
That's
on and off
actually a
season.
very good way of looking at it, and
Yeah.
a perspective that I haven't heard,
Mm-hmm.
because when you look at the patterns that are there, when you look at the Carlos King
Mm-hmm.
interview that she did, when you look at all of these things
Yes.
like
Her
a
last
journalist would,
the
you
previous
see,
season,
this
yeah.
is why.
The previous
Um
season, how she felt about some of her other cast members, her even mid scene being like, "Girl, I don't even want to deal with this."
right,
Like,
right,
you could
right.
just tell that she kind of reached her wits end, and she felt excited coming to the season. But that comment from Britt Edie at the bank dinner just really just swerved things, and who knows what
Yeah.
else was happening behind the scenes that we don't know about. And so that's why it kind of felt like a let out of frustration to me.
Yeah.
And not and I will say that, putting anyone doing any kind of sexual acts, it's just not
Yeah.
good in any scenario, quite
Right.
frankly. So that's not something that I can necessarily stand beside. But as someone, like I said, who has watched Kenya closely on and off season, what it really felt like was a let out of frustration about things that may be valid with production behind the scenes.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's a very, very, very good point of view.
Hmm.
Were you one of those that's also thought that they both should have been fired?
No, honestly, what's so funny is that had a there's a couple ways I feel like they could have gone about it. I just kind of felt like bringing Brit to the opening wasn't a good move in the first place.
Mm,
Like when you have an issue like that, like one that was quote unquote investigated and everything, it just
right.
kind of feels like there needs to be a one-on-one before we bring someone to
Right,
like
right,
the next time you see someone shouldn't be at your grand opening.
right.
It definitely should have been like a one-on-one between them, but the one-on-ones have been weird this season to me anyway. So
Very like you know what's crazy? I feel like Housewives used to thrive through a
hmm
one-on-one, and now the one-on-ones have become so produced that they
hmm
come off so disingenuous.
I
And
agree.
that's my problem with the one-on-ones. I'd rather just see you in an all scene with an all cast, and
hmm
you at least I can see the genuine flows and energies flowing. But I
hmm
feel like sometimes with like that Porsha and Shamea that we'll get into later in
Yeah.
this episode, it was hard to watch. It was
It
hard to
was.
watch.
And also, I would say that not to jump ahead, but like I was reading some of like the episode descriptions, and we're not getting a Drew Portia one-on-one until like episode 13, I want to say. And I'm just like, y'all let 13 episodes go by before you finally got them one-on-one. Like
Mind you, this is a problem that was mentioned episode one.
episode one. And that's what I'm saying. I'm just like, we
Right.
need to kind of refine the art of one-on-ones again. Because truth be told, you really see what someone is made of in a one-on-one scenario. There's no peanut gallery, there's no outside noises. And I think, like I said, not to jump ahead, but where Drew is kind of winning me over this season is in kind of like a one-on-one confrontation. We are starting to see that the girls are really don't have a leg to stand on with her for real.
Yeah, they really don't. And no shade, she's been kind of eating the girls up. No shade.
Yeah.
And you also said that you see a good housewife when they are in a one-on-one. And I just want to
Yes.
shout out Angela, because
Yes.
last week when she did that one-on-one with Portia and let her
hmm
know about the situation that was happening with Shamea, like, I'm sorry, how does a newbie sit down with you and come in between your friendship for 20 years? That's a housewife.
Listen, Angela's doing her big one, and we can
She
discuss her
is.
more as we get into the
Right, right,
episode.
right, right. Well, talking about Angela, we open
hmm
up with Angela and her man Charles having what it looks like to be a cute little dinner lunch. And so you listen to what he's actually saying. He's giving, I can't stand her, but the car washes paid for the date, because Angela said that Charles has a bunch of car washes. In New York,
hmm
he is coaching here and there. She was trying to like go down his little financial situation, trying to make everybody know that the money is still coming in.
Right.
The scenes with Angela and Charles, they're very hard to watch. And I've said on the pod before that I don't know why some husbands come on Housewives and put on this act that they don't like their wife, or that they
hmm
don't enjoy spending time with them. I will say that Charles does not take me as the person that comes on reality television to put on an act or to be fake. I do
Right.
believe that he seems very like himself, and he's just like, in a weird way, he's trying not to do too much. So to him, it feels like Angela's doing a lot. Oh my God, my
Hmm.
camera does that whenever I do that.
Oh, get into it. Come on,
I
high
know it's
tech. Okay.
I need to be very weird with my hand gestures. But yeah, so I feel like Charles a little bit like, let's show you loving your wife. Even when she's asking you like, give me a kiss, you're like, why do you want a kiss? Like, it's just very, what were your thoughts on this scene with Angela and Charles?
Yeah, Angela and Charles scenes aren't my favorite, but I think historically, I don't typically enjoy husband-wife one-on-one scenes.
Mm.
Unless I really think the husband is entertaining. They don't really live up to me. Like, maybe I enjoy Karen and Ray scenes, quite frankly. Ray is just so good natured that I've
Yeah,
always he kind of feels like a grandfather to me. So I kind of like seeing the little snippy little back and forths they have or whatever. But it feels still very loving at the core. But
right,
truth be told, I don't watch Housewives to see a husband and wife dynamic.
right,
Sorry, that's just not why I'm tuning in. But to your point about Angela and Charles, I think it's really important for Angela to showcase how proud she is of Charles and how proud she is to be his wife.
right.
I think Charles, like Andy mentioned on Watch What Happens Live when he was talking to Ashley and Kelly about kind of their dynamic, he has shown up to film. And I think that's his line of
Yeah,
showing, I care about you. You're really excited about this opportunity, even though I'm not most thrilled about it. But I will do a confessional sit down with you. Any scene you want to film for the most part, I'll do it for you.
right.
That is, I think, Charles's way of showing love. But that doesn't mean that it comes across great to the viewer.
Yeah, yeah. No, I agree. I mean, when I see Charles, I see my dad. My dad is the same way. He is the
Really?
type that he does not show love through affection. He shows
Hmm.
love through paying your bills, doing something that matters, giving you a roof. That's how he shows love. So
Yes.
I feel like Charles is the same way. Like, listen, I'm on this show. I'm filming as much as you want me
Hmm.
to film. I love you. And this should be enough for, like, he's even doing
Exactly.
confessionals, honey.
Yes,
You
which
know?
I'm like, honestly, I'll give you a small hand clap, Charles. Like he is showing up. Now
He
maybe he'll feel more
is.
comfortable in a second season. Um,
Maybe.
or maybe not. I kind of feel like I feel like production is really gonna try to unearth this family dynamic next season.
And I really
Um,
hope, listen,
so we'll
production,
see.
I know you're listening because you always do.
Ah,
I really hope that don't do too much between Charles and Angela, because Angela is a great addition to the show. And I will
yeah,
let you know this right now. If Charles doesn't want to be on the show, she will not be on the show. So if you
yeah.
do
She
something
would
that is
choose him.
going, if
She
you
would
do
choose Charles.
something
Mhm.
to Charles or that family that makes Charles look bad, or that somehow paints him to look as a bad character in this show
Mhm.
next season, he's not gonna be with it, and he's gonna make her walk out from this. So if we want longevity for Roa right now, so please try to tread lightly, because production sometimes, when they go into certain stories, they don't care how far to go. And I mean, I don't blame
Mhm.
them, because when you're producing reality TV, you have to push the buttons. But
Yeah.
sometimes the realities that creates in real relationships, it's
Mhm.
hard. It's hard. So,
Yes.
and
I
Char
actually I want to push back a little against that because I feel like for the viewer, maybe it will be a little necessary to push and prod a little bit because I think
okay,
viewers are a little confused about what is the real core issues amongst the family dynamics.
right.
Angela puts a lot of things politely in confessionals in a way of like
Yeah, she's an
explaining.
explainer.
She is lots of words that I've noticed. She's really wordy when it comes to like the family dynamic stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, okay, maybe we do put to bed like this baby thing. Okay, that's fine.
Right, right.
But we
Compromise
got
on
a
that.
we got a sister that can't even be mentioned on air. We're getting bleeps of the sister's name.
Or
We have a
Sean.
daughter, okay, or shown, right? We have a daughter that runs off and gets married, doesn't even tell anyone. We have beef between them, and unfortunately, we learned that her mother passed, and so there clearly is some
There's a
more
lot going
trauma,
on.
even outside of maybe like this baby thing that they keep trying to stick on Angela this
Right.
season. So I think there may needs to be a little bit of compromise, but with compromise does come care, to your point, and I also don't want to scare Angela off. So we may not have to get into all the business, but I do think viewers may be owed some more backstory with how the family dynamic got to where it got to. So that's
N-
how I stand on it.
No, you're really right about that. I just really think that Charles really runs that, and if they
He
do
does.
something to run Charles off, bye bye Angela. But listen,
Okay.
so Shamea and
Mm-hmm.
Cynthia meeting up for drinks. Now this
Yes.
scene hit really hard for me. Shamea is heartbroken, not
Mm-hmm.
mad, not messy, but actually hurt that Portia let the group ambush her instead of pulling her to the side to talk to her. Shamea says, "We've been friends for decades. Why would she bring this up in front of a jury of women?" She reveals Portia's mom said cruel things about her, saying, that Portia has shared with Shamea that it's really hard to be your friend because my mom doesn't like you and my mom doesn't like your mom. And there's some mess that we still don't know what's going on over there with the
Mm-hmm.
mothers. But clearly something happened. They used to be besties. They are no longer besties, have not been besties for a very long time since Shamia and Portia have not been have been younger, because
Mm-hmm.
them becoming friends was something that the mothers were not expecting. But here we are, right? So she revealed all of this. It's generational drama at this point.
Mm-hmm.
We saw on Instagram what Portia said.
Yes.
She watched this scene, this episode, I guess 2 days, one day before this episode was set to air. And
Mm-hmm.
she had a very emotional outburst and went on Instagram and basically said, Shamia, do not talk about my mom. That's one thing you're not going to do. Don't go down the wrong road.
Yeah, she
Um,
referenced it. Yeah.
yeah,
Wrong road.
wrong
Wrong
road.
road.
She also said that Shamia knows that what Shamia's mom did to Portia's mom was egregious. The girls were clocking Portia for even knowing that word, child.
Oh
Um,
God.
so thoughts like,
What's so interesting? I'm just not really moved by Shamia and Portia, like the friendship
mm,
dissolution. I think that I have to wait for the reunion. And that's been happening a lot this season. Things are a little more interesting in this off season leading up to the reunion
when it's in real
taping.
time.
Yes, like things are happening in the real time of it all. And, it kind of just makes the actual season stale up a bit.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure production is not thrilled with
Right.
that. Um, uh, and also, quite frankly, I read Portia's post and delete for emphasis,
Right.
and I watched what Shamia said, and it really didn't seem like she said anything crazy about Miss Diane. So
Yeah, that's what, like, to
I'm like, did
me,
Portia not finish the scene? And she just kind of
right.
typed that up real fast. And I'm like, Shamia did the same thing. And she did reference her later in their one-on-one sit down. But like I said, nothing disparaging. And even in the confessional, you see Shamia say, I don't even want to get into it when they asked
Right.
her, well, why did the moms fall out? So
Right.
I always feel like at the end of the day, Shamia has been respectful of history between the two of them. I can give Shamia that. But I do feel like peanut gallery get in your ear. It's
Yeah.
like, if you weren't bothered by the stuff Portia was doing to you prior, I watched wasn't season 9, right?
Mm-hmm.
You lived that, girl, and if you can make it past that,
You can make it past anything.
I agree. I feel just like you do. So that's where I stand on the one. Cynthia looked great in the scene as well.
I did see that tweet, and I
I like
agree
I,
with you.
I like the
Yeah.
little wavy situation she
Yeah,
had. It
yeah,
was
yeah.
cute.
No, Cynthia looked good. She is the queen of a throw and go, honey.
She
She
is.
is, and
I
she
don't think we've
started.
gotten the same wig every season. Like, I don't think we've gotten the same wig in a scene with her this whole season. She really has switched it
Yeah,
up.
she's been switching them, and it's funny because I think she has a wig line. So I would be
Oh,
fun. I would be actually. It would be hilarious if she's just been like wearing her own wig lines, because they've become like a topic of
they
discussion.
have. And I was not mad at the Lord Farquhar. Like, they were on her bad at
Now,
the
Nate.
Kelly's event. I wasn't mad at the bobbing. Like, I wasn't mad at that. I really wasn't. Y'all get on Cynthia a little hard. Listen, she can try things. Everything ain't gonna stick the landing.
Right. And you know
Okay.
what? Like Cynthia's not the like let the other girls put on. Like, this is
Right.
Cynthia has already been on the show for years, honey. She is a
Exactly.
legend when it comes to this housewife stuff.
Okay.
So listen, she doesn't need to put on for any of y'all, which is something that she always says when people talk to her about her fashions this season and stuff. She's like, I
Yes.
don't got time for any of that. I've been on the show for way too long. I show up as I am, and it is what it is.
She still has my all-time favorite reunion look, where she wore like the black dress. I think season 4 reunion, if I have my
Mm,
timeline right, with like the slit down the middle, just enough
mm-hmm.
cleavage.
Oh,
It was so the bone straight situation on the
cunt.
hair. It
Mm-hmm.
was too good, and I don't
It
think anyone's
was
touched her since.
no, that was a good look. That was a good look. Um, there was something. Oh, so what do you thought
Mhm.
about Cynthia saying that this Porsha and Shamea situation was reminiscent to her of her and Nene, and the
Interesting.
Nene mention on the Real Housewives of
Yes.
Atlanta, which is
Ooh.
something that if you have watched this show post Nene, they don't mention Nene at all. They actually don't even when you go back to some scenes that she's even a part of, they don't even show her when you know
Mm-hmm.
she was in the room.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you? A lot of fans have been hopeful that this means that maybe these are sometimes the stones are being formed for a
The
possible
breadcrumbs.
return of Nene Leakes. What do you think?
There definitely is a bit of breadcrumbing happening,
Right?
because if my memory is correct with this particular episode, I feel like Cynthia in the scene said like I had a friend or I had a friendship. She didn't give a name in the scene, but in the
Clock
confessional,
it,
Nene was
clock
she said Nene's
it.
name. And so
When you know
between
about
filming,
production,
listen, between filming and confessionals, clearly something did change.
something
The
did
streets are
change.
saying that like,
And
Nene's
also,
a
no
good.
shade. The girls know that you're not supposed to mention Nini's name. So
This
if
is true.
Cynthia, this the girls know that about
Mm-hmm.
Nini Leaks, which is why in scene
Uh-huh.
Cynthia doesn't say her name. It's not that she's trying
Exactly.
not to give her clout. Is that they know that they don't like her name being used
It's
because
a no-no.
they usually will cut it. So that's why they don't mention her name. However,
Mm-hmm.
like you said, weeks later
Mm-hmm.
or even months later in
Right.
confessional, she mentions Nini and even expresses how this relates to their friendship back in the day. So maybe, I mean, production clearly allowed
Maybe
it.
they cleared it. The network cleared it. Someone cleared it.
I mean, the producer said name her. It's cool.
So, we might be,
I will
little by
say,
little, we might get our way there.
I will tell the fans like ease off on the like these all of these illusions that they be putting out on social media and all of these narratives and whatever because and all of these pages that have like those hints and those little like blind items or whatever, like
Hmm.
ease up on that when it comes to the whole Nini situation, because I think that when it comes to that you might want just as to for it to be organic as possible. We just want to
Agreed.
know like later on, like we don't, let's not, because we know that Bravo is heavily on, they read what the fans are saying. They're
Hmm.
they're a network that cares about what the fans are saying.
Yes.
So just let them work that out on their own, child. We don't know what's
Yes.
going on, and hopefully,
We'll get
it's
some answers soon.
it's a good day for everybody. We'll know who will break it. Nate's right here, honey.
Here we go, child. Child. We got
Um,
we got we got Mr. Dave Quinn over at People, so he'll be
true,
breaking the story.
true, true, true,
He's
true, 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 true,
he's
true.
tried and true.
Shout out to Dave Quinn. That book is amazing. So studio talk. Shamia's sister and friend are with Shamia. They're at the studio.
Yes. And this
Um,
is like a drive-by scene, mind you. Like this is
yeah,
like a cut in, cut out type situation, montage.
right. Um, they kind of say that, like, listen, this is not new. You know,
I feel like something was said there that couldn't air, or they didn't want to. I don't know, but
it
clearly
was definitely
it.
spliced.
Yes, something happened in there where Shamia felt pumped, and we'll get to that.
Mm-hmm.
We'll get to that sit down, but she came to that sit down pumped, and I feel like whatever happened in that studio session with her sister and like I think it was her aunt and her mother,
Yeah.
there was some pumpage going on there.
Right.
Okay, and I
Right.
kind of wish we saw a fuller version of that. Quite frankly,
Yeah.
I
No.
felt like I missed out as a viewer.
The scene definitely felt rushed. In
Mm-hmm.
my opinion. Um, I mean, it was very telling though because it
Mm-hmm.
seems to me that outside of Porsha and Shamea, no one was for this friendship.
No one's a fan.
No one is a fan, even the closest of family members.
That's telling.
And I've been very wary of even watching Lauren and her
Mm-hmm.
reactions. And it's just very interesting to me because I wouldn't be friends with someone that one, my family, like, not that I wouldn't be friends, but it would be very hard for me to be friends with someone for 20 years and to
Yeah.
be as close as they seem to be
Mm-hmm.
when my family has so much history with them and they seem like rivals. This seems like Romeo and Juliet.
Romeo and Juliet.
You know, like the both two families at war. Because whenever you get Porsha down with her family and she
Mm-hmm.
mentions Shamea, is you know, and when you get Shamea down with her family and she mentions Porsha, is it both sides are giving the same thing back.
Yeah, you make a really good point with that. I think it'll be really hard for me to be best friends with someone, and I felt like my other friends or like my close family members just didn't see it at all for them.
Right.
But I'm also not them, and who knows, maybe the relationship is beneficial for both of them with
Mm,
all the pitfalls and all the smart remarks and snarkiness included. Maybe it is more beneficial
interesting.
for them to be in each other's orbit.
Right. And I mean, I also wonder, like, we know from the season 9 drama that Shamea was very much Team Candy and she held
Hmm.
Portia accountable. And also, let's not forget that Shamea and Phaedra ended in a
Hmm.
really bad way.
They
So,
did.
I wonder if that was really the rift of their friendship and the start of like this like
Mm.
fake best friendship of, you know, I can never be okay with the way that you held me accountable in the world stage about this situation instead of supporting me. Maybe that's how Portia feels. And
Hmm.
Shami, you know, I don't know, because it's just like, what is it?
Like I
There's
said, you're not
something there.
we're not getting the full story, and I think viewers are smart enough to be like, okay, like it can't be an editing issue. Someone's just not
Right.
telling us the real. What's going on here? But
I
I
know we're gonna
think
get at a reunion.
reunions,
Yeah.
that is where everything bubbles to the surface.
Right.
And even at the one-on-one, I won't skip ahead too much, but Shamil had that little Freudian slip about like a off-camera conversation they had.
Let's talk.
I was
Let me
like,
get through this
child,
episode, chat.
okay.
So bowling night with the girls. Angela,
Yes.
Cynthia, Portia hit the bowling alley. The jokes are
Yes.
rolling. Portia is twerking that big booty all over the bowling alley. Like, I just love when the girls are kikiing.
Yeah.
Portia is Portiaing. Cynthia is Cynthiaing. And Angela can keep up, honey. Like,
She looked
Angela,
good. I liked her little corset and low rise. I said, all right now. Okay.
honey, she's a
Her half up, half down, or maybe it was like just a fully up situation. It was cute.
It was cute. It was cute. It was very cute. But even just with the shade and the little cackles and the little kiki, like
Mm-hmm.
Angela just she knows how to really like do it with the
Yeah.
veterans of the show. And it's just
Mm-hmm.
funny because in a recent episode of Carlos King's podcast, he said that Angela, they've been trying to get Angela on Roa since season 3.
Yes, and I've definitely heard that she's been in the works for some time. But if you think about it, Drew was also in the works for some time.
True.
Shamia was also in the works for some
I mean,
time. So this is kind of a cast of people that they have been kind of seeking after for some
hoping,
time.
yeah, yeah.
Interestingly enough. Hmm.
Yeah, that's very interesting. So Angela says, "Don't try to give me no old balls, Portia." Portia's like, "But you like old balls."
I enjoy the frenemy energy between Portia and
Yeah, yeah.
Angela.
It's
I
giving
think
very
it
much
just
Karen Giselle.
that's where they need to stay. I think that is a
Mm-hmm.
good that's something foundational that can be built upon
Yeah.
later as time goes on. I think I really wanted to highlight that.
Well, the mood kind of shifts after Portia opens up about PJ missing Simon. She
Yes, for
gets
the second
emotion.
time, right?
This is the second time
She
she says
yeah, she's
that.
mentioned this story, right? Mm-hmm.
And she's mentioning it in a way. She's mentioning it in a way where she says that Pilar did it again. So
Oh, okay, got you.
in my head, I'm just like, damn, like, did Simon really get that close to Pilar to the point where Pilar has been asking for Simon that much?
I feel like, any child under the age of 10 if you create a new normal and then it's ripped from under you, maybe 13 and younger, I could see it.
Mm,
Sure, like I could see it. I know people have their thoughts and opinions about Simon and Portia's relationship, right?
yeah.
But at the end of the day, Pilar is a minor, and if she was seeing someone in her house every day for even 15 months, and then all of a sudden things just take a turn, I feel like I would miss the other character in the home too, if I'm a
Right,
child.
right,
So
right, right.
I can't knock, Pilar at all for that. Now, Portia mentioning it to like Cynthia and Angela, I don't really know what to make of it, quite frankly.
Yeah,
I don't really feel sympathy
me
as
neither.
a viewer. And I don't know, like, is Portia trying to elicit that? Is this really what she's going through? She's kind of hard to really like believe and digest, I feel like, as this divorce is going on.
Yeah, I agree. And also, I hate, because I love Portia down. Portia, if you're listening to
Mm-hmm.
this, love you down, girl. It's no shade, for real, it's no shade. But it just comes off so disingenuous. Like it just
Contrived. It
comes
does.
like it
Mm-hmm.
comes off like you thought about this and you prepared this for this scene, and you knew exactly what you were going to say. I've seen Portia cry for real, so
Right.
all of these little crying moments that you've had on the show this season, baby, you've been on TV far too long for you to think that you can fake cry and we're gonna eat it up. And we've
She
seen what Cordell put you through.
Yeah, no, that was real.
You
Oof.
know, we've seen you ugly cry on this show.
And and also, she's very aware of how the viewers are digesting her this season.
Right,
She's even
right,
spoken about it via X. So
right.
she's aware that she's not at the top of the fan favorite totem pole this season, and I think we will see her make a big swing at the reunion. I would not be
Mm.
surprised.
She's very well with reading the fan base and
Hmm.
making that flip. So I wouldn't be surprised either. Let's see how that goes.
Yes,
Um,
I would say poor Angela. They're coming for her, and she knows it, which
yeah,
just kind of affirms we already know about her being like a smart housewife.
yeah.
She will absolutely be in the hot seat. It will be her this season for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, I think they're gonna because I think that some of the girls know that she's a fan favorite right now.
Hmm.
And what
And no one banked on it.
no one
No
banked
one bet on it.
no one banked on it. Even I think even the show itself, like I think no one like she is the rising star.
Right? She
She
was not in the
is
blogs at all leading into the season.
at
You knew
all.
nothing about
Actually,
her.
remember if you were clocking the blogs, remember that people were saying that Angela was gonna be boring.
Yes. And
People
I
were
was like,
pe-
and I was like, what sourcing do y'all have? Because
People were not gagged about Angela at all. People were not here for Angela at all in the sense of like, what is she gonna give? People felt like she was the grandma of the show, which is so funny because
yes,
Angela is giving very young hot thing, girl. Like, you know what I'm
she's
saying?
hanging with them. And also, I remember when she was doing like they were doing some like press stuff like right before the
Mm-hmm.
season came out, and I think it was Bingeworthy that asked her, well, who has a fashion moment this season,
Mm-hmm.
and she was like, Shamea, girl, that's you. That wink in her eye, I was like, I'm gonna like you. That was like 4 or 5 days before the season even aired.
Yeah,
And I
yeah,
said, I'm gonna
yeah.
like this one. And I was right. Like, she had something in the tank the whole time and nobody knew. And that's why I could tell her cast members who've been doing interviews in real time now,
Mm-hmm.
she's been called sneaky or you gotta watch
Mm-hmm.
her. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
so clear that they didn't think that she would be like a breakout either.
Yeah, yeah, and they didn't think that she was gonna be able to actually handle them, the way that she
Hmm.
has. Because Angela does know how to throw some shade, honey, and she
She's
knows how to
good.
throw it very subtly, where you actually
Uh-huh.
have to think about it, which is the type of shade we like on the Real Housewives of Atlanta.
Stretch
But
marks on the mouth. That
mm,
was good.
Brit, you're a whore.
Like the fact that we had to get stretch marks on the mouth, then miles on the mouth. Then she had to just kind of flat out call her, a whore for her to really get that was the read she was giving her. It took 3 iterations of that for it to connect with Britt.
I was like, and then that's
That
when Brit
Angela
got
mouth.
up, and I'm like, girl,
Yes,
she
like
been
that's
reading
when
you
it kind of
down.
clicked. Right.
She been reading you down, honey boogie. Um, One thing that Portia says in this bowling alley is that with all of this stuff happening with Pilar and her divorce and
Mm-hmm.
all of the things that she's having to deal with emotionally, like she doesn't have the fight she doesn't have the
Mm-hmm.
capacity to also divorce her best friend right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's something that was also very telling because clearly, you know, we're approaching the sit down, but this feels kind of definite. We already seen a Shamea scene where she's breaking down, saying how bad things are between them, and then we're seeing Porsha
Mm-hmm.
saying how she doesn't want to divorce her best
Mm-hmm.
friend right now. And I think the word divorce was very, to me, like it jumped out
Mm-hmm.
because if you feel the same way that you're feeling with Simon about the same process you're feeling with Shamea, like I can already tell what this friendship where it's at, right?
Yeah.
Um, anyways, not we're gonna move into the sit down later on, so not too much on that, but I
Yes.
just wanted to point that out for the castmates because they did speak about that in that scene. More into Drew's legal hell, honey.
Oh Lord
Meanwhile,
Jesus.
Drew is literally fighting for her name and brand. Ralph's
Mm-hmm.
trying to snatch 40% of her business and lock her out of the house. I'm providing for the kids 100%, says Drew. Why is he trying to drain me dry and take my money? Sis had to get a hotel at 1 o'clock in the morning. Ralph had changed the security codes. Why is he acting like a supervillain?
You know what's so interesting? I actually want to talk to production about this because it's a whole lot of playing victim and villain at the same time. Where, to Beyonce, are viewers supposed to find Ralph amusing, or is he, the dark cloud that's over Drew? I think we've seen that split this season with him filming this light, petty, sure, but this light scene with Shamea and Porsha. But you have Drew pouring her heart out in a confessional about how he is antagonizing her. It sends mixed messaging to me as a viewer. I don't know how I'm supposed to take Ralph, like from a viewer standpoint. Now, I have my own personal feelings. I actually don't want to see Ralph ever again, quite frankly.
Right,
I'm
me
I'm
neither.
ready to kind of be done with that chapter
I
for
was done
Drew.
when Drew sang to him on at the reunion
Oh
last year.
Lord.
That's when I was
Oh.
done.
Honestly, that's gonna be her worst moment on the show ever. Like,
Has to be. I'm sorry.
and I'm just like, what is it worth making Drew like a laughing stock to keep her, like, does that make her more interesting to a viewer? I don't
Right.
know if I need to see Ralph on our screen. I think the flashes to the basement in the middle of a Drew home scene, we get the gist that he
They're
lives down
enough.
there. I don't know if I need to see Ralph at dinner with Shamia and Portia.
Yeah.
And so
That was a
that's actually
lot.
that's my bone. That's my bone to pick with production. I just don't know what message they're trying to send to a viewer. Like, it what's coming off is that he is antagonistic at best,
Emotionally
potentially
abusive.
emotionally abusive at worst. And so it's like,
Mm-hmm.
what messaging are you sending? Like, it's cool enough if it kind of makes Drew this perpetual easy target.
Mm.
Does it beef up her storyline to keep him really like on camera? Why does he have confessionals? You see what I'm getting at,
Right,
Allison?
right, right,
I just
right.
don't know what we're supposed to be digesting when it comes to that as a viewer.
No, but to piggyback off what you're saying, like I agree with that too, because now hearing you say, like it's Ralph supposed to come off amusing, I'm
Mm-hmm.
here thinking like, damn, that is true. Like sometimes I be laughing at some of the shit that Ralph be
Mm-hmm.
saying. Why is production editing this in a way where like it's making Ralph to seem like he is
Mm-hmm.
somehow, a good person or normal just like Drew.
A
Why
bit.
is why
Mm-hmm.
is this being edited to be like a 50-50 situation when this is the Real Housewives of Atlanta, and if anything you should be showing this situation through Drew's point of view.
Mm-hmm.
And if, like you said, in confessional, Drew is legitimately crying out for help, saying that this man is antagonizing me, abusing me
Mm-hmm.
emotionally, and being disrespectful. They left the court, and Drew rolled out the window and went off on him.
Yeah.
You've seen how this person has become the supervillain of her story.
Right.
Why not paint him to be that too? You
And
have the power.
it kind of reminds me of like when Apollo and Phaedra were really like at their end in season, I don't remember, season 8 maybe. I don't remember
Yeah.
the timeline all that well. And I didn't know if I loved it then either. And I was not even a huge fan of Phaedra at the time, but it was just clear that he was really antagonizing her. Like even Go
Yeah.
Away From Me with This Apollo, which has become amusing of like a callback. That was it was kind of physically
It was a lot to
agitating.
even
You know what I'm saying?
watch.
Like he was
Yeah.
coming up on her. So it's like I just don't think it's smart to platform somebody like Ralph
Yeah.
because it gives him a leg to stand on with the viewers. And even if you feel like Drew is kind of playing hokey pokey, or maybe she's not being forthcoming about some of the ways in which she contributes to the dysfunction of her marriage, I just kind of feel like if she's the housewife that you signed on, that's who you need to lend loyalty to.
Right.
Ralph does not need a confessional at the
Right.
very least. He does not need to be filming. Or maybe we could do a podcast together scene with Shamea and her inviting Porsha.
Just to throw the shade that Drew supposedly cheated on him with Ty. Because
Exactly.
that's
And
really why
mind
we were
you,
there.
we still don't have a one-on-one scene with Porsha and Drew at this point in the season. And also, we'll see in the preview of next episode, Drew, Kelly has an aversion to Drew. Have they ever done a one-on-one on the show that we've seen? We have interconnected group dynamics that have not been explored.
And we don't know
Why are we
why.
giving Ralph a confessional if we can't even explore why Kelly doesn't like Drew? She has no leg to stand on with that either, but that's neither here nor there.
Why are we getting a whole Ralph, Shamea, Portia scene
Mhm.
if we don't know what's going on in Angela's real life and in Britt's real life? Because Britt has a bunch of family problems too.
Yeah, she got a drive-by scene with Mike this week too. About what dress to pick out. I was like, what is that?
Like
Y'all just
she barely got any camera time.
I think that might have been her only appearance was the
Like
cutaway scene.
legitimately. Because I don't even. It's not even in my notes, yeah. But no, it's very food for thought. Food for thought,
Mm-hmm.
and I would
Something
love
to
for
chew
the
on for
cast.
sure.
You know, I would love for the castmates to ruminate on that, and because that is very true, and I don't
Mm-hmm.
understand. Like, we have to decide what are we trying to do here. We've seen other seasons of even other franchises where production decides to make the husband the enemy, and that's
Yeah.
fine. I mean, we saw it with in Miami with Lisa Hochstein,
Mm-hmm.
and how they've decided to paint Lenny as the bad guy. And I think, honey, that is what you should do.
Right.
Protect your asset, protect your talent.
Exactly.
Um,
That was all I had to say about Drew, though. Like, I just kind of feel like as a viewer, I'm not sure how to digest her, and I kind of feel like that might have been why I've been slow to kind of empathize with her a little bit as time
yeah.
has gone on. Like, I was on the brigade of calling her a liar, last season that she was
I
on for
mean,
sure.
it's
I
not a
was
lie
definitely
to
on.
call her Drew a liar. She's lied.
True, right, but what I will say is that I was like hard on her. I remember when Candy was going really hard at her, like around the reunion
Hmm.
time, and I was just like, I don't understand, da 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 da. And then I was kind of the to fellow like Real Housewives of Atlanta viewers. Usually people don't really, but if I say something, they kind of see the logic or maybe my perspective. But
Yeah.
they were really hard on me about me having such a staunch stance against Drew. And after I think I watched the first part of last season's reunion, I was like, she is a victim. She is.
She is.
And I think as a viewer, it was hard for me to see her that way because of the way we had like that gaslight edit with like
Yeah.
Ralph. So, like I said, it became like a funny thing. And I think I
The
bought into that as a viewer. I really did.
the thing is that Drew is a victim in her personal story, but she's
Correct.
not a victim in her dynamic with the ladies. And I
Correct.
think
Agreed.
that as viewers, sometimes that's why we can't see her for her in her personal
Mm,
story either, because we know that when she's coming into the all cast with the rest of the ladies, she is colluding, she is
mm-hmm.
lying, she is making shit up, she is putting on for the cameras. It's no shade, my love. It's no shade. You're bringing props to
Yeah,
scenes.
she did tell
You
that girl
carrying
sex. She
bones from
did.
Atlanta to cabins. Like it's
It's
okay.
true.
It's just the
She ends up
truth.
she ends up on Basketball Wives this season as a talking point.
You
Oh,
know, you know, like
oh,
it's a lot going on, child. In the words of
it's a
Mary
lot happening in
Cosby.
Atlanta.
So I think that's why fans sometimes is like don't see her for Drew, but we have to when it comes to Drew,
Hmm.
she is giving the show so much. I feel like we have to learn how to compartmentalize her stories and her
I agree.
situations because that's the only way to kind of like see her fairly.
Agree. And
Um,
also, if you came into this season with a clean slate, I think this is probably her most likable season,
it
quite
is, and it's
frankly.
also the best season. This is the season where she's looked the best.
Oh, great. Yeah, yeah, agreed.
She
She definitely looks
looks
great. I
amazing.
love that blonde confessional. Looks really
Honey,
good.
it's no shade. I haven't seen one confessional I'm not obsessed with. Like
Yeah,
she
she looks
really
good.
is rocking it.
Hmm.
And the hair, go naked, period. Um
Portia was really mad she created Portia Jr. and then Portia Jr. rose up against her. Like, girl, you created this monster, technically.
and no shade. You should have not given her access to the wigs and had her eat up all these confessionals for the season 16. Because Drew is looking good.
She does look great.
The
She
hair
does.
is looking everything.
Looks good.
It looks good. Um, like you mentioned early on the show,
Yes.
um, we sadly learned that Angela's mom passed away.
Yes.
But we met Angela's mom actually
Yes.
this week on the show. Angela and her sat down to talk about the family dynamics that are currently going on.
Hmm.
Angela doesn't really like Charles because Charles felt like their sister was being very messy around the house and told her to pick up after herself.
Hmm.
Angela's mom felt like it was a disrespect, a boundary cross or something. So there's been a lot of tension there. I mean,
Hmm.
honestly, like I feel like that's regular house shit. Like a lot of moms get mad with the husband and like to be honest, that's just regular like it whatever.
Yeah.
But there is a lot of tension there when it comes to her mom and Charles and also the sister like you mentioned.
Hmm.
But everything kind of goes out of the window after we find out that Angela's mom passed away, and
Yeah.
also Angela's message. When she let the world know about this, one thing that I really was happy to see was that almost. I would say all of them because I
Hmm.
haven't really gone in to check, but I feel like all of the ladies have reached out and said
Yes.
something
And I
positive
think
to.
Portia left probably the most heartfelt of the messages, which I thought was interesting
Yeah,
considering their
yeah.
dynamic.
And also even Phaedra, I was really
Hmm.
like I was
She
really
also gave a heartfelt
surprised
message. She did.
for Phaedra's heartfelt message for Angela because we know that they are not in a good place when it comes to
Right.
this show.
Pre-reunion
So
as well, which I think is important to note that in real time we still haven't got to the reunion yet, so things can always change.
right,
But it
right,
was good to
right.
see Phaedra kind of step aside and show empathy after not showing much of emotion on her last season of Married to Medicine. She still
And
has it in her after all.
right. And also Phaedra is also going to be on My Show Happens Live sometime soon. So
Fun
that's also going to be interesting and ruffle some feathers, I'm sure.
for sure.
Kelly, child, do you want to talk about Kelly teaching her daughter how to drive? Like, is
I could tell you how I feel about Kelly into this point in the
yeah,
season.
let's do that.
I think Kelly started off hot, but I think her embers are cooling down a bit the deeper we get into the season. Now, we haven't
Mm.
gotten to the beef between her and Britt, so clearly the coals will heat up again.
Yeah.
But in this middle section,
Why she a
I
hookah?
okay, listen, okay,
She
you know
needs
that
she
you,
needs the
very Atlanta. Get into it. You know they
she
love
needs
hookah
the
down
top
there.
changed. This
One
set is
thing,
done.
right? We got to shake it off, right? Exactly. I think that she has just gotten a little too settled into the cast. Like you can tell that her and Shamea have built a genuine connection and
Yeah.
she's kind of fading a little bit to kind of tertiary like secondary status to me. And while I
Mm.
feel like Angela kind of has heated up as we slide into this, I think Drew is also heated up. And
Yeah.
someone made a good point. I wish I could remember the handle, but I remember when maybe first, second episode, I was just like, where is Drew? I was like, where? I think Drew was barely in the second episode. I'm like, where is
Right.
she? And someone was like, she's a mid-season performer. She shows up mid-season to the end. And that is already proving to be true. Like Drew is starting to pick up speed as we hit this mid-season patch. So, but for Kelly, I definitely think without that feud with Britt, I think both of them probably would have faded a little to black for me this season.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how
Yeah.
I feel about Kelly.
One thing that I will say that I disagree a little bit is that I
Hmm.
do believe that Drew has been given this show a lot
From the
since
start.
from the start,
Okay.
especially this season, because I
Hmm.
do feel like this season we came in full blown. Everything is on the wall.
Hmm.
Ralph, I mentioned in the last episode of my podcast, like production doesn't need to go through Drew to get to Ralph. They have his number. You know,
This is true.
they,
This is
they
very
can they
true.
can every aspect of Drew right now is at their disposal. So at the beginning it was this whole drama with Porsha and this whole situation. We even saw Drew film with Kenya, which was
Mm-hmm.
the first scene that we saw Kenya in. So we Drew has been giving it to the girls. She mentioned Pilar. You know, we're not supposed to talk about the kids. She threw
Right.
in this music is gonna give is gonna pay for Pilar's college.
She did say
And I
that.
wonder how much money that album has made now to see, just to reference the numbers and see if it's really gonna pay for Pilar's college or
Did you
not.
feel like that was shady? I definitely felt like she was trying to be funny,
I
but
think
I
she was
don't
trying to be
know.
funny, but I don't think she was trying to be shady.
Right, like I don't think Shamea did carry that bone back with a little more stank on it than I
You
think
think so?
Drew
I
meant
don't
it.
think. I honestly.
I think she know she like Shamea know. Here's the thing, Drew's not a dummy. So like if she mentioned that to Shamea, who she is already called Portia's
Right.
lapdog, like clearly she didn't really mean that in such a concerted way. Now I'm not gonna act like it was like such a nice comment. It was to be it was a cute key. It was a key. But I don't think like the way like Shamia taking it back. I was like, I don't know if that was necessary. Quite frankly, her and Portia ain't even already good space. You could have left that off the cut, because of cutting
But
room
no
floor.
shade. I knew that I understand Shamia. She said, "Listen, if I don't bring this back to Portia, the fans are gonna clock me and they're gonna say that I'm a bad friend."
Now, mind you, they
They
still
already
at odds
saying that.
anyway. Here's the thing, they still at odds. So whether she did it or not, they was still gonna be beefing anyway.
Clock
So
it.
maybe we should just be ourselves. Ooh, what a
Clock it.
thought.
Clock it.
So yeah, maybe we should think about our own interests as a housewife. You over here trying to protect Portia, y'all still fell out. So what'd you do all that for anyway?
Well, at home, Drew
Mm-hmm.
is with her mom.
Oh yes.
And this was a scene that to me was also very telling of the situation between Drew and Ralph.
Correct.
Drew is another person it's no shade to Miss Thing, but she is also very contrived when it comes to filming the show and the things that she's willing to tell when she's filming, especially when she's filming with her family. And I think
Yeah.
that in this scene, we saw Drew's mom open up about the fact that the kids are wilding.
Yeah.
They're being affected by this divorce more than you know. And I don't know if you've noticed, but they're not answering to me. They're being very disrespectful, and they need. And the reason why I think they're like this is because you guys are at odds.
Yep.
And this divorce is beyond messy. Drew's mom was very vocal about the fact that she did not like the court order about Ralph having to live in the basement and
Correct.
you upstairs, and this whole situation where you have to leave the house for Ralph to even come upstairs.
Mm-hmm.
She feels like the court did not take account in the kids into the situation, and
Yeah.
Drew seems to agree with her. So is this Ralph's idea? Like, Drew agrees with the
Mm-hmm.
situation, and just to give the castmates some context, that's what I called my fans, by the way. I call them castmates.
Yes, I picked up on it.
Just to give the castmates some context, I watched the Roa after show for this episode, right?
Mm-hmm.
Getting ready to do this podcast, and Angela kind of like clocked Drew a little bit, and she said, "Who put this into the order? Because why
Right.
would you, as a mother, be okay with this? Because I understand the whole situation with Ralph, but I wouldn't be okay with this whole arrangement of us living separately. And clearly, Drew's mom also feels the same way.
Mm-hmm.
And Drew in the after show says, this is just something that they added in there. I don't know how it ended up in there, and she doesn't really answer or even like kind of
Mm-hmm.
like says like
Classic Drew.
classic Drew, which lets me know that she has something to do with it. So it's really sad, especially
It, it's
because
it's
the
very
mother is
sad.
bringing up the kids. What do you think? What do you thought about this scene?
I think the arrangement, living arrangement, is so dysfunctional, but the
Hmm.
relationship has been dysfunctional since they came on to the show.
Since
I
Rob went
always
to
felt
Florida.
literally like I always felt like Ralph has given us his representative.
Yeah.
Like you just even the way he spoke to Drew in scenes through clenched teeth. Like I'm like, you hate her
Hmm.
guts, my God,
Yeah.
today. And so as it relates to this particular scene though, you're right. Like Drew cracked. I feel like in confessionals, Drew is pretty like forthcoming about emotions because
Yeah.
she tears up quite like often when talking about the scenario and Ralph. Like, but when filming scenes, I agree with you. It is kind of hard to I feel like get more of a truthful account of how she's feeling. It almost reminds me of the way Angela kind of patches up the family dynamic sometimes. It's very like,
Mm,
we went through this, but everything's fine.
yeah.
Like, don't forget to smile. And it's so hard to do that in confessionals when you're getting hit with direct questions from producers or, being asked things so directly.
Mm-hmm.
As it relates to Drew's mother, you saw the crack and you could tell that her mom was taken aback by like how her casually speaking about the dynamic with the kids
Yeah.
really did affect Drew. Drew is also not a runoff type of person when the heat gets hot. Like she doesn't really
Yeah.
physically exit often. And the fact she had to really step away, I think it really did hit her that
And she kind
not
of stopped her
only
mom. She said, "Wait,
right.
hold on,
She
hold on,
didn't
hold
she
on."
didn't want her to keep going. Right.
Yeah, she's like, "Cause I didn't even know you felt this way." So
Mm-hmm.
the fact that her mom revealed something on camera that Drew was not anticipating
Mm-hmm.
was what caught her off guard, especially
For
about her
sure.
kids.
Yes, because she essentially was saying that, you are failing your kids as a mother.
Yeah.
Like this dysfunction that you and Ralph have created. Because while Ralph may be the big villain, Drew
You
has
cannot you
absolutely created that dynamic along with
yeah.
him, that dysfunction with him, and it is affecting the kids.
And
And
no
mind you,
shade.
go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt you. I'm so
No, you
sorry.
could.
No, but there's also this and the burden of black mothers. There's
Mm-hmm.
also this burden on black mothers to figure it out when it comes to the kids, even
Mm-hmm.
when they are emotionally in turmoil, you
Yeah.
know? And I think that's where Drew's mom is coming in right now. She's saying, like, you can't lose sight of your kids just because you are going through a lot emotionally and with this man. You have to
Agreed.
toughen up.
She has to put on quote unquote her big girl panties. Drew has to accept responsibility for the parts that she has played
Yeah.
in the dysfunction and dissolution of her marriage. Unfortunately, even when you are a victim in a particular marriage, it still takes two to tango.
Yeah.
So whether you didn't maybe love yourself enough to do X, Y, and Z or to not enter said marriage, there is always some form of responsibility that Drew is going to have to take with this. And I think it was just kind of hard to hear that from her pastor mother.
Yeah.
Um, and also, Drew is always quick to go back and forth with Ralph online. Ralph was tweeting about the episode on
Yeah.
X, and she had like a quote tweet for everything he said, and I was just like, "Sister,
Please
you gotta let
get
that
up.
go." Like,
Get up. Get
no,
up.
like get up again. Like literally, you're still wrapped up in it, and she doesn't even realize it.
And you know what's crazy?
She's still in the web.
A lot of people say, like, I'm a lot of people when I say, is anybody telling her, like, pay him dust?
Right,
Pay him.
right. Like going
And
tit for tat is how y'all got here.
yeah, and also, like, are you not understanding that you are Ralph's clout? Like, you
Yes.
are the reason why we know Ralph. You are the reason why we even follow Ralph.
Mm-hmm.
So if you start paying him, we will start paying him. You know? And
Agreed.
someone she posted, because the thing about Drew is that she doesn't stop just at tweeting.
No.
She screenshotted the tweets, went on her Instagram, posted the tweets that she just quoted him on, giving
Lord.
him even more clout. And someone commented on the post and said, "Can you just ignore him? Like, do you
Yeah.
understand that if you ignore him, then we won't know about him?" And she
Mm-hmm.
was like, "I've been trying to, but one thing that I'm not gonna do is let him talk about my mother." And it's just like, Drew, you need to. I'm telling you, sister, I'm so sorry. I know this might be a hard lesson, but you need to let it go.
Yeah. And
Let the
also
mouse go.
it also just kind of shows that like maybe it's a lesson learned about entangling family in your marriage in the first place because wasn't her mother like their counselor for a stretch of time? Wrong road. Word to Porsha, wrong road. That
Wrong
should have
road.
never happened either. That should have never happened either. So it's just a lot of dysfunction. A lot of things are just out of order in that household. And it really
Hmm.
is affecting the kids. You can tell, like, even the daughter, who I always felt was so bright and bubbly, I really haven't seen that in the small like scenes that
Yeah.
we do get with the kids. You can see that the son is a little bit disconnected as well. I feel like that's
Yeah.
like fair to say as a viewer. And yeah, I'm like, Drew, I'm glad you're in the studio. I'm glad you're putting out a product and I'm great. But what's going on at home, baby? Like,
Yeah.
what's going on at home? Mind you, I know she has to make money, but still, like, there maybe need to be more balance. So that's where I
But
stand on Drew. But I enjoy her in I've been enjoying her this season in like a group dynamic scenario.
Yeah. No,
So
listen,
yeah.
I'm one thing about us here on Reality Right After is we're gonna give you analysis, we're gonna give you recaps, we're gonna give you we're gonna break it down and
Yeah.
we're gonna tell you exactly what we think and how we feel about these scenes. But overall, she's having a great season.
Mm-hmm.
When you look at the whole package, she is
Yes.
giving you personal stories. She is giving
Mm-hmm.
you great confrontations in within the group. She's giving you great looks. She's giving you cute little wine liners. Did you sell it? The cat. Excuse me? Excuse. When she
She's
asked Brit
nuts.
if she sold her cat, I was
And then here go
gagging.
Britt stuttering like Jasmine Sullivan, child. Mm-mm-mm.
So what, Chad?
Listen, and I think there's something to be said about Drew being the only housewife full time left from the, like I like to call, the transitional era of the show. Like
Mm-hmm.
she is from that season 13 kind of like moment of the show, and she has made
It's
it
crazy how
to
she
this
survived.
revamp. Yes,
Yeah.
like she made it to the revamp. And this, like, I think this is like the third time they tried to get her on the show.
Yeah.
So she's a cat that has 9 lives.
I
So
know. I know.
maybe from a production standpoint, Ralph makes her more interesting. I, as a viewer, would actually argue against that. So I wonder if production will think about that going into next season, because I don't think the divorce will be wrapped by the time they start filming for the next season.
Yeah, I don't think the divorce is gonna be wrapped. No shade. And also, I do think that Drew is one of those housewives that does sign up to give it all to the camera.
Yes,
So I think
agreed.
without Ralph, she would still find something to give to the camera. No shade.
Yes, agreed.
I really do believe that. Like I think that
Agreed.
there's a lot of going on in Drew's life outside
Mm-hmm.
of these girls that she can not exploit. That's not the word that I want
Mm-hmm.
to use, but bring
Yes.
to the forefront. Even
Yes.
if it's
Offer
not
to the
about
show.
Ralph,
Mm-hmm.
you know. But listen, we've gotten to the place where we've wanted to get to, right?
Yes. Oh wait, I did want to have one more comment on Angela. We kind
Yeah,
of
yeah,
like
go ahead.
breezed into Drew. I found I just hope it was very clear. It's very clear in the scenes with her mother that there is some unhealed things as it relates to like treatment of her sister versus treatment of Angela. And I just hope that before her mother's passing, that Angela was able to maybe have some conversations with her, or feels at peace with how things were left, because
Yeah.
it did feel like little girl crying. We saw some cutaways from where she was with Amari at like dinner or like lunch, where Amari mentioned to her that she was married, and you could just kind of see a little girl crying out to her mom a little
Yeah.
bit. And I don't know, I felt a little tug in that
Yeah.
particular scene with Angela and Angela's mother. So I'm hoping before her passing that some conversations were had and maybe some things were healed between them.
Yeah. I'm praying for
So
that
that's all I
family for real.
yeah, so that's all I wanted to add to the Angela section.
No, that's actually something very important to mention. And I really hope that Angela really figures it out when it comes to her family, because one
Mm-hmm.
thing is to I feel like Angela is stuck in the middle of a lot of situations.
Mm-hmm.
And she reminds me a lot of my mom. She's always in the corner and
Mm,
she always has to be the provider and always has to somehow figure out how to make everybody feel comfortable, but no one comes to see how she is feeling. So I
yes.
really
I think
hope
her family
that
members are kind of playing ping pong with her a little bit. You've got Charles on one end, strong
yeah,
personality. Your mom
yeah.
had her thoughts. You got the sister you're not even speaking to. The daughter also doing her big one. I'm like,
Yeah, it's a
Angela
lot
kind of
going
getting
on.
tossed around a little bit. Like, I need her to stand
Yeah.
up for herself like she stands up for herself with these ladies.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you. Well, Shamea and Porsha, the
Mm.
sit down that was heard around the world. They both show up in cream. Very interesting.
Yes.
Very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Women's suffrage. Ironic,
You're
because ain't
nuts.
nothing neutral about this convo though.
Mm-mm.
Shamea says, "Why is it uncomfortable for me to express myself?"
After Portia exhales, I believe.
Yeah, Shamea is trying to tell Portia what's going on, and Portia's just like, and Shamea, I mean,
Was the exhale that big?
but no shade, it would have bothered me too.
I
Like,
felt
girl,
it was more slight, but I guess I would have been annoyed too. Fair
girl,
enough.
like I'm trying to
That's
talk
fair.
over here and really tell you about these issues that we've been having, and you really like for real, and then you're over here making noise with the forks and the knives and the plates and this and that. Like, girl,
She did. Her asking for a chair for the bags also felt passive aggressive. Like there were so many moments.
I also didn't like how she asked that server, like, "Can you go get the chair for this? Because our
Like
purses are."
this is a small table. Well,
Where's
hello. What happened to
please,
hello? How are you?
please,
Right, please.
like,
How are you? Like,
girl, watch that diva. Anyways, um, Portia Johns, like we said, Shamea clocks it. You tired? Am I boring you? Portia says it's just a deep breath. And Shamea drags receipts. You said they have to pay you more for you to be more real with me on camera. Shamea is
yeah.
pressuring Portia. She's like, why can we be off on camera how we are off camera? Why can we be on camera how we are off camera? And Portia's like, Shamea, why are you doing the things that you're doing? Why are you doing the things that you're doing? And Portia's and then Shamea drops the fact that, Portia said that, well, they're gonna have to pay me more for me to be like I am with you off camera, on camera. And why do they have to pay you more for you to be genuine, for you to be your real you? Like, what is that situation? So Shamea is opening the door to let us know that Portia has been contrived this whole season. Portia
Classic.
is making sure that she's only giving the show what she wants to give the show. So now, as the viewers, this lets me know that there's a lot of things that Portia is not giving us. And word to the street, the fans already feel like Portia is giving friend of.
Mm.
So, what were your thoughts on that line specifically and that thing that Shamia said about Portia?
It honestly affirms and confirms everything that viewers, ones that at least been really tuned into this season, have already felt. I remember even tweeting early on when they were at the bank and Portia was like, "That's not Shamia singing, that's Drew." I was just like, "What even is that comment?" Like, and she just kept saying it, and I was just like, "What's happening here?" And then I also felt like on her own birthday trip, she wasn't engaging in group dynamics. And I've consistently felt like Portia's probably been the worst offender of that this season, not showing up in group scenes. You cannot purport yourself to be the center Peach or like, I'm having a grand return this season, and you can't even address Drew, someone that you know already.
You haven't sat down with Drew.
Like, I just don't understand why she, and also we can also piggyback to kind of the hot mic moment with Dennis in the car after they
Mm-hmm.
were did the play date with for like the time with Pilar.
Mm-hmm.
You can just tell she is playing publicist with her own narrative. And I am so glad that production is just showing it all.
Yeah.
Whatever she's giving us, freaking, they're gonna show every last bit of it. The hot mic, what you say on the scene in the confessional, and yeah, it's just been
And she
very
has and she
disappointing.
has spoken and said that
She
to
blames the edit,
me
right?
to me she feels like she's blaming the edit,
Mm-hmm.
and she's saying that a lot of the things that viewers are seeing are they're seeing it from a very skewed point of view, and
Mm-hmm.
that, which is very surprising because
Mm-hmm.
you're supposed to be Bravo's princess. So the last thing that you should be doing right now is saying that there is some type of discrepancy when it comes to the way that you're being edited on this show.
Yeah. I'm
Um,
like, girl, you're not Kenya. So I can't accept that from you. I'm sorry.
um,
I can't accept the it's skewed. I'm not gonna accept that from Portia. So sorry. Fan favorite? No way.
you had your own show after you left the show.
Uh-huh.
That
No
was a,
explanation, mind you, of how we got with Simon for real, for real.
right.
Like you were able to skip all that and get your spinoff.
And we
And
and,
you
and we and
cut a fool.
we gave you the grace. I don't think
Yes.
online gave it to you, but we whatever. We accepted the fact that you got a
People
digital
tuned
show.
in. People
People,
who tuned into that show. They
I was
did.
one of those tuned in because
Mm-hmm.
that show was messy as hell, and it was a good
It was
show.
very messy.
Um, so we know this about you, and here is your big return. You did one season on Ultimate Girls Trip where it was
Yes.
giving very much. There was a last minute cancellation, and they called you to save the show because they felt like the girls that they had on that season were not
Mm-hmm.
going to carry that much. So they called the big heavy dog Porsha to come
Mm-hmm.
in and save Ultimate Girls Trip, and you did. You gave whatever. It was cute.
Okay. It
Even at
wasn't it
that,
wasn't her best performance,
it
but
wasn't her
sure.
best performance, but it was whatever. Like I
Mm-hmm.
think in that season she was already giving like I am this high status in Bravo now.
Yeah.
Um and then I think also after she left Roa, she did a one on not a one on one, but she had a solo episode on Watch What Happens Live, and we
Yes.
know that not all the girls get solo episodes, you know.
No, only special privileges.
Only special privileges, you know. So that's already also cementing you as royalty when it comes
Mm-hmm.
to this network. So here's your grand return. This is also the Sweet 16 season of the
Mm-hmm.
Real Houses of Atlanta. So there's a lot already on this season, especially with the last 3 seasons that it's had. When
Mm-hmm.
when you've been gone, there's a lot already riding on the line. I've asked every person on this podcast that has joined
Mm-hmm.
me this season, and I've asked them, "Do you think she's lived up to her hype?" But
Absolutely not.
that's been the answer.
Like, not even close, Wellington.
I
Not even
I
close.
have to agree. I have to agree. And I don't know,
She needs to figure something out.
I don't know why that is. Like I really like. So, walk with me, right?
Okay, I'm walking. Where
There
in the
there
Mary? I'm
there
walking.
is this theory that I have when it comes to some housewives that are big personalities that are monumental to their shows, and then they
Mm-hmm.
walk away and come back.
Mm-hmm.
I feel the same way about Tamra as well
Okay.
on Orange County.
We'll see. Mm-hmm.
And there's some if I sit back and think, there's some other people that I can mention too. These big names, these big personalities that leave and come back, when
Mm-hmm.
they come back way too aware of the camera, production, this whole housewife situation. I feel like when you have a housewife that's been running on the show for a very long time, yes, she gets to know the game of you know how it
Mm-hmm.
goes, but when you don't give a housewife a break, you keep her in that
In the mode
run, you
of
know, in
the
that
world of the
mode,
show. Mm-hmm.
and there's not a lot of thinking, there's not a lot of, you just keep going. Portia had the time to leave the show, think about the show, see the show from a viewer's perspective, and then come and then also see how the audience takes in the show and the
Mm-hmm.
ladies. So now she's come back with all of these preconceived notions that she thinks is what we want to see from her. She's come
Mm-hmm.
back with all of these scenes that she already planned from the moment she got casted. It's not giving because we know you genuinely,
Mm-hmm.
and we can clock the fact that you are not showing up in your most authentic way.
When she pulled out that YouTube stunt, I said, "Oh, we're doing after show content on our own channel. We're clicking down. We're clicking down." So one thing I can give Candy, Speak on It had covered a multitude of things. It wasn't just related to the show, right?
And
But
and it was a
Portia doing like
production, you know. One
correct.
thing I'll give Candy, she goes into it, and she
Mm-hmm.
gets in there, you know.
Oh, for sure. I mean, it was legitimized because I remember Andy brought it up at the last reunion that she was on.
Yeah.
It was mentioned a few times, and so I can legitimize Speak on It. I can accept that. Portia doing recaps every episode, girl. You're not even showing up in the episode. I'm sorry. I don't want to hear what you have to say 6, 8 months later, maybe a year, depending on the scene. Like they're filming for a while. I don't want to hear it now. So that's why I'm saying that reunion, we're gonna see who's really gonna tell the truth and who's not, and who will be
Yeah.
exposed. Because I can't accept what she's giving right now. I just can't. She has faded for sure this season.
Well, they kind of Portia starts to cry a little bit, even though I don't see any tears.
They never
She
drop with her. Not never, but they have been dropping lately with her. It'll well up and it doesn't really fall.
I don't even see water. But Portia's like, this is scary, Shamea. Like, you're arguing with me for the show. Why are you arguing with me for the show, Shamea? Why? Why are you doing this for me, Shamea?
I actually look. Can we talk about that? There's been a lot of fourth wall breakage this season. I don't know if it's paid off though. I don't know if it is paid off.
Honey, we used to break the fourth wall for gaggy moments.
Exactly.
Now it's just like, okay, we are too aware that we're filming a reality show and that this is a reality show, and it's not giving. Like, it's not.
Yeah.
This is no longer reality. This is Zeus. No shade,
It's
because
like so baked into this season, and I'm just like,
yeah,
it takes the viewer out of it too. And so
like what
it's hard.
show? What do you
It's
mean
hard to
arguing for the
connect.
show?
It's hard to connect. And so when you're talking about on camera, off camera, while on camera, it's like, well, how's the viewers really supposed to feel about that? Like,
Like,
is anyone being authentic? Like,
you know, and I don't even know why production even goes into that and even like keeps, because my whole thing is like you're kind of taking away from the authenticity of the show itself
clock
and
it.
everything that we have going on. So what are we talking about for real, for real? And if you're
Yes.
gonna clock that she's being inauthentic on camera, then we're gonna have
Hmm.
to air her out
Yeah.
so we can bring that authenticity out of her. Because how isn't she being authentic? Let us know, Shamea, in confessional. Lay out the receipts.
I'm with you actually. Like, and it's funny because Shamia had the slip of like, you were just saying the other day they have paid me more for that. Well, what do you mean by that? Like,
So what
let's
else was
get
she
into
saying?
it. Exactly. Exactly. If you're gonna air it, let's really air it.
Because it's just at this point it's a lot of like dead ends.
Yes.
We drive, but the road ends, and
No,
what are we doing?
this definitely felt anticlimactic, and I remember it was they spliced up this particular sit down in the
Yeah.
trailers, both of them, and by the end of it, it was 4 minutes long. I was unmoved, which
Yeah,
is
I
what I said at the
mean,
beginning of the episode. I'm just kind of unmoved by this dissolution of the friendship. I don't know,
yeah.
maybe it's the way it's playing out. I think that's more so what it is, just the
I
way it
think
kind
it's
of plays
because
out on the
both parties
show.
are not being genuine about the reason why this is
There's so
happening.
many secrets between them.
I
Just we
think
just
the
have
only way
so many
that we can
secrets.
get an actual genuine conversation is if Portia and Shami are willing to speak about the situation with their mothers. Until that situation is being able to be spoken about, I don't think we'll ever be able to actually get a real conversation between the both
Hmm.
of them, because there's that is going to be hanging. And I
And
think that will come out because I don't know. I
I,
just
so interesting. I have another theory. Now, more of a long shot in terms of it actually happening, but I think if Candy was present this season, we might have also gotten more truer versions of events.
oh, for real, because Portia
Hmm.
would not be able to lie.
Exactly. And she would
What
be willing to defend herself by all means necessary as well.
Portia and Shamea's friendship's Achilles heel has always been
And
Candy,
Candy.
because
Exactly.
Candy has always been able to clock Portia when Portia's being fucked up to Shamea, because Candy's one. She's a real bitch. You know what I'm saying? She's
Yeah.
gonna, and
Hmm.
Portia knows that, and
Yep.
also Portia really likes to tread very lightly when it comes to Candy ever since season 9.
She's kept it
So
real cute.
she's kept it real cute, very respectful, and very,
Hmm.
don't bite the hand that feeds you.
If Candy was
Um,
on this season, it would look a little different.
it would
And
have
it's so
been a
funny when
different
the girls are like, "Oh,
story.
Candy doesn't da 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 da." I'm like, okay, if Candy on
Yeah.
this season would have been a different scenario.
It.
Plus, even Candy doing the Amazon lives kind of keeps her, I think, in the world of the show. It's
Mm-hmm.
interesting when she on a recent one said that she really vouched for Shamea to become a housewife this particular season,
Yeah.
and I believe that Portia has not said it with such conviction.
Because she hasn't
That that
vouched for
that's
her.
and that's what they're alluding to as well, like in the background, that like Portia wasn't necessarily vouching for her to be on the show.
Mm-hmm. Well, Shamea said that.
Right, exactly.
Shamea
And
said
I'm
that.
just like,
Shamea
are we
said
just
that.
glossing over that? Because that's kind of a big deal too. The origin of even her being a full-time housewife this season, y'all were never gonna be cool this season.
Right.
Like
Y'all were
it
never
started
gonna,
off
like, y'all
bad.
actually fake. That's why you were late to her party.
Clock it. And I think Portia mentioned that like they weren't even really speaking. I
At
think
the beginning of the
between there
season.
we go. Exactly.
So if I'm not speaking to you at the beginning of the season, then why are you expecting for me to speak to you now? So this everything has been
Yeah.
fake.
No, literally, and that's why you get Portia like really going hard at Drew about the dentist thing in episode 1. clearly there we had some other pent up emotions from, could be Simon, could be Shamea, and Drew kind of got a lot of it. And I was just like, she got to be dirty, low down, and all this other stuff. She's not trying to get
Maybe
this
she's
business
not
for
the low
real.
down dirty you're talking about.
You know what? And that's where I sit on Porsha and Shamea.
Yeah.
Like Shamea too. I think she. I don't know.
It's a
I'm not.
lot going
It's a
on, and
lot going on in
it's
Atlanta.
a lot of unturned stones, a lot of things to decipher through,
Yeah.
and
Mind you, I'm an Angela stan, and I feel like she's gonna disappoint me in that finale. Whatever they're alluding to that she said or she did, I don't think I'm gonna like it. So everyone's
mm.
going to annoy me by the end of the season. I could feel it. There's a word on the curb about what Angela was doing at that finale event,
Chad.
and I don't think I'm gonna like it. So everyone would have annoyed me by season's end. But as it stands today, because I try to stay present to the episode,
Yeah.
I can give a high waving a great flag for a green flag for Miss Angela Oakley. She is my MVP of the season so far.
She is definitely so far the MVP of the season. Well, at the end of every episode, I like to ask my guests, what do you think, who or what, it could be an item or a person, has been the scene stealer of this week?
Oh, great question. Scene stealer of this week. You know what? I actually think it was Angela's mom. I really enjoyed hearing them
Yeah.
talk. You got a sense of kind of the family dynamics. You got a sense of even kind of like the trauma that maybe Angela's
Mm-hmm.
endured. You also got a bit of her mother's humor, and I think that was
Yeah.
nice to see considering that, she is no longer with us. She really reminded me of like the Clark sisters. I don't know if you're familiar with
Yeah,
them.
yeah.
She kind of felt like
wait.
I think I tweeted that too. I was like, she kind of
Actually,
like the
now
Clark
that you
sisters.
say that, that's actually kind of scary.
I was like, she kind of talks like Karen Clark Sheard to me and had mannerisms of
She
Twinkie. I was like, girl, you a
does.
long lost Clark sister? Angela, where your people from? Listen, let me find out.
Right. Let me
Okay.
know. That
So
is
I
so
would say
funny.
she was my scene stealer this week. I think both moms showed up. I would also say Drew's mom.
Yo, that's so
We
crazy because that was gonna be mine.
Oh, period. There
Yeah.
we go. And why
Funny
Drew's
you.
mom for you?
I was gonna say moms in general
Mm-hmm.
because, like you said, Angela's for sure, and also Drew's mom because
Mm-hmm.
Drew's mom came into the show this episode and aired it out.
She
You
did.
know, she left it all out there and even gagged Drew herself.
She
So
did.
that to me was like the scene stealer because she was saying things that Drew was not anticipating.
True. And
And
also, I guess technically we're introduced to Mama Morton and Miss Diane's long running beef as well. So another
yeah,
mom element there. Right after
the
Mother's Day too. It's crazy.
child, now the mother's giving.
The mothers, child, they not even outpace the cast this week. Yeah.
Cha. Not the mothers need the show, Sha.
Listen, even Cynthia, a mother of the group, I felt like she did well in both of the scenes she was in at the
No,
top of the
Cynthia
episode.
did exactly what a friend should have done this
Exactly.
episode. Carry bones, carry conversation, leave it at
Mm-hmm.
that. And,
Exactly.
you know, whew, this episode had emotional layers, more emotional
Yes.
layers than a Cynthia Bailey wig chat. I don't know if Shamea and Porsha are really back on solid ground or if this is just the eye of the storm. But one thing's for sure, this friendship needed a camera crew because I don't
Listen,
know how we're gonna get through it.
do you think they'll ever get back? Will Shamea and Portia ever get back on kind of more equal footing?
I think that Shamea and Portia have learned for 20 years how to be fake best friends for each other, and I think that they can get back to being fake best friends to each other. I will stand on 10 toes that I don't think this friendship can actually become genuine until there is a conversation about the mothers.
You really think whatever mother beef there is, that is like the core of like the
I,
beginning of the issues?
yeah, because Portia's mom does not fuck with Shamea's mom, and
Yeah,
by
not at all.
proxy does not fuck with Shamea.
Yeah,
So
we caught that in the scene.
you mean to tell me that your mom doesn't fuck with me and we've been best friends for 20 years and she's been in your ear for 20 years saying that I'm not trustworthy to watch out for me and to, basically keep an eye out for me. You mean to tell
Mm-hmm.
me that your mom has been in your ear for 20 years about that and you're just now telling me when we're first on the show?
Child.
There's something it's bigger than this show. It's bigger than whatever it's not about Drew. It's not about
Right.
Drew, Portia saying that is that Drew? It's not about any of that. It's not
Yeah,
about
right.
any of that.
A lot of microaggressions.
A
That
lot of
passive aggressive.
microaggressions between them. There's a lot of tension.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what happens when you bring friends of like this on the show, because
Mm-hmm.
these people have been friends for very long time, before the fame, before all of that, when they were teenagers, you
Yeah.
know. So I just find it really interesting, and I think it's very, the way the world works is very interesting, because her mom, their moms were best
Mm-hmm.
friends
Yep.
that ended up becoming enemies.
Mm-hmm.
Now their daughters become best friends that are also now at a point where they are drifting apart.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you saw Shamea's latest on Watch What Happens Live.
Mm-hmm.
They're at a point right now where there is no resolution. Shamea said on Watch What Happens Live that she is no longer um, affording Porsha grace. She is
Mm-hmm.
no longer opening the door for Porsha. She is no longer handing, like, leaving the hand out for Porsha.
Right.
She said the boys on her court. I'm okay with how things are right now, and I'm making peace with it. But if there's any way that we can move forward with this, she has to show me, because I am tired of protecting this girl and, being her pillow in a sense
Mm-hmm.
for so many years. Like, enough. I think they've both reached a point of enough.
Yeah, and I will say I want to key in on what Shamia kind of really asked for. She really wanted reciprocity and loyalty, the same loyalty she felt like she
Yeah.
had given to Portia. I thought that was an interesting tidbit that she gave with
Right,
how she
right.
feels right now. I'm like, okay, you
Mm-hmm.
feel like all like no when it comes down to it, Shamia has clearly felt like she has always given Portia loyalty and she has not gotten that in return. What have the fans been saying for the last few years about their friendship? But we wrong when we say it. Okay. We wrong when we can see it or
We
we call it
messy.
out as we see it. Right.
We
We're
messy.
we miss I'm missing in my Nina Parker voice. I'm missing.
Like,
So yeah.
it's just we tell it how we see it, and
Hmm.
I just hope it's just so hard, because this is all avoided if you're genuine. This is all
Just be
avoided
real.
if you're just real. Um, I'm praying for their friendship. I do think that Portia and Shamia, from what we saw before, I mean, I don't know, it could have all been fake, because that's what Shamia said on Watch What Happens Live. She said, "Now I finally know that
Hmm.
you never liked me." When she said that, I said,
Yeah.
"Damn, that's how you really feel? You feel like Portia never liked you?"
But think about it. How many times do we even see like in our actual like lives, like we have friends that fall out with friends, and it's like, dang, we've known each other since college or since high school, but this whole time you really didn't like me all that much.
Right,
And
right. And like, now
it
that we're
really it
actually
happens.
falling out, I can
Mm-hmm.
tell that you really wasn't fucking with me.
Right. Or like you hated my guts this whole time.
Right, right,
Mm-hmm.
right. Listen, huge shout out to Nate for joining me on this episode.
This was good. You got
You
to bring back
know,
for one of the reunion episodes,
yes,
please. I
yes,
would love to
no,
do
no,
this
no, no,
again.
yeah, yeah, we'll definitely have to run it back for sure. Thank you so much for being on Reality Right After. Castmates, make sure that you are following Nate everywhere, specifically on Twitter. I One thing about Twitter followers is that I think Twitter followers is like buying something. I need to be buying into you,
Yeah.
and when I bought into that follow, honey, I've never been back.
Oh, you're so
Thank you.
sweet.
You are just you're one of the accounts that I love to follow.
Thank you.
I just love your tweets. I love your perspective. I always think that you tweet, even when you tweet things that may seem negative, you tweet it from a
Hmm.
sense of logic and not necessarily just talking shit.
Yeah.
And with all of the noise on Twitter, I appreciate people that are tweeting things from a legitimate space and not just because they want to say something or because they want to be controversial or because they want to clickbait, you know?
Thank
So,
you. I appreciate that.
of
Because I'm
course,
gonna have to run
friend.
into these people on these carpets, and I can't say nothing crazy. Now it's
You
never been my
know?
thing really, but I really can't say nothing crazy about anyone because next thing you know, they're popping up on a carpet, and then
Yeah,
I
yeah,
am
and I
gonna
don't think, and I don't think that you've ever said anything crazy. You
right.
always say things that make sense, and even when you're saying things that maybe Drew might not like this, or maybe Portia might not like this,
Mm-hmm.
you're saying it from a place of, this is what's happening, and this is how it can get better, and
Yeah.
you're. you're never malicious, and I think that the
No, not at
girls, that's
all.
why everybody loves you, and that's why everybody comes to you to the carpets, and that's why everybody will come to you in the carpets, because you are that great. Anyways, thank you so much for listening to another episode of Reality Right After. I am your host, Wellington Gomez. Make sure you are subscribed to the podcast. Make sure you are subscribed to the YouTube channel. And for everything reality TV, you already know where to follow the Reality Rundown. That's where we're covering everything shady, reality TV headlines, everything you need to know about your fan favorites. Until next time, see you next week. Bye.
Bye.